Goresh and Skogo finally have a counter. And no, it's not a mage. For too long, this dude dominates in the battlefield. No joke, everybody was focusing over the Goresh. Skogo was used from the cavalry because he's having the mobility damage and etc. But Kuma is here to shut them down very hard. Here's how his kids basically are destroying Goresh and Skogo. Obviously, the people who is invested in Goresh and Skogo is not going to be with easy hand. Okay, we don't need you more, guys. Sorry, Goresh. Sorry, Skogo. It's still they still going to have pretty decent place in the fights. But with the Kuma, one of the things of Goresh and Skogo is take it away. And this is the survivability. So far, when Goresh and Skogo was presented in Call of Dragons, we was having at one point counter or a little counter, and that was Goresh with Mogro, because Mogro was reducing the HP by 30%. So having Goresh with Mogro was killing the infantry, but in the same time this combo was not making crazy merits. Just it was not like Skogo. Skogo is just making diffused counter attack. This is the rage skill, which each legion take 15% less damage per additional target. But yeah, it's diffused counter attack. On top of that, Awakened 10% more counter attack. So everything around this legion was about counter attack, but in the same time they was having great survivability. Maybe this is what actually separate Goresh and Skogo from the other infantry presenting Call of Dragons. With the Mogre and Dunfield, I think they didn't manage to break Goresh and Skogo, which, you know, in every game when the new hero is coming, somehow the power creep is happening. Just because if the new hero is more bad from the previous one, why should you even bother to buy the new hero? You should just use your old one. And yeah, they didn't manage to do big there, but Mogro at least get his positioning in the bastion, okay? Because Mogro is having the garrison tower tree, so maybe this is the only progress the Generation 3 infantry managed to do in Call of Dragons compared to the Generation 2. Now, Generation 4 is way more different. If you face Goresh and Skogo against, for example, Li Kuan and Kuma, Goresh and Skogo is going to lose. And this is not all. Li Kuan and Kuma can actually make huge damage to the surrounding infantry around them. They're basically making a pool of draining, and they can drain the enemy HP. And getting 20% or 50%, obviously here it's like 20% from the 50% from the target, and up to 100% draining from the other legion, the target legion HP can be reduced by 50%, and the other legions can be reduced by 20%. So you know, you need something like 3 legion is going to be like 90% more HP. 4 legion, you're going to hit this 100 HP draining. But what is supposed to mean? It means that Goresh and Skogo, especially if they're the target, they're going to have 50% less HP, which, you know, there was good in counter attack and survivability, but survivability right now is going to be taken away. And Goresh and Skogo cannot do absolutely nothing to Li Kuan and Kuma. They don't have anything. They have increasing the attack, obviously, with Goresh. Goresh is increasing pretty decently the attack. It's like 50%, Awaken it is 60%. And the resistance damage is damage taken minus 20%. That's all. That's all. And having some splash damage, okay? It's having some splash damage. But it's not affecting the stats of the Kuma and Li Kuan. Something that Kuma Li Kuan is going to do the Goresh. So in huge fights, if Kuma Li Kuan, or I can even say Goresh with Kuma, face Goresh Skogo, it's just going to get destroyed. I mean, the Goresh Skogo Legion is going to get destroyed from the range units. First of all, they're not going to have that many HP, and at the same time, it's going to be extremely hard for them, especially if their target with 50% reduced HP, and their target is having this HP over their infantry. So the things become extremely hard for Goresh and Skogo. And this is the HP draining weakness sustain pairs. Goresh rely on attack resistance and counterattack. Kuma turn everything in healing, HP boost, HP synergy, and etc. It's just crazy how the things switch so hard. Now about the multiple AoE hits that Skogo is having, back in the days we was happy, people was happy if their Goresh Skogo get hit because that means counterattack, and there is a reason. Even the game know that. Believe me, developers, when they make some new hero, they put a lot of thinking in the new hero. You're not going to see something breaking the stuffs, but they present Spiritborn Torque. This is the artifact for Goresh and Skogo. This is basically making everybody attack you. But right now, this can be weakness for Goresh and Skogo compared to Lee Quan and Kuma. Because if you taunt everybody and you're like 50% of your HP down, this means you're going to just vanish like this. You're just going to get destroyed extremely fast. Now from point of merits, I think the healing is going to give you sustain on the battlefield. That's correct. But I think Goresh Skogo is going to beat Lee Quan and Kuma from point of merits. Now Lee Quan exactly no, because he's crazy. He's doing crazy amount of damage. It's not the tanky like Kuma. But with the help with the Kuma, I think they can actually get closer. Even I think Lee Quan can do one idea even more damage from Goresh and Skogo, but there is not huge difference in the from point of the damage. And I'm not quite sure why people get upset with infantry doing some damage. Obviously, this type of heroes is tanky heroes. I mean, imagine you pick a tank in one game and you want to be top DPS with the tank. Obviously, some people is going to get this thing as a challenge, I'll show you or something like this. But at the end of the day, there is specific attributes for the tanks that make them tank and not top DPSs. But still, compare it Lee Quan and Kuma to Goresh Skogo. I can say actually that Lee Quan and Kuma can do one idea more damage just because they're going to sustain more on the battlefield compared to the Goresh Skogo. They're just going to sit there more. So that means Lee Quan can trigger his rage skill more times. And his rage skill is not that bad. 1.7k Awakened, obviously. 1.5k not Awakened to 3 legions in total. It's crazy. Just good amount of damage. And infantry right now is punishing all the ranges. Even archers and range players struggle to do this sustain. And as I said, I think in one of my videos, but if Lee Quan and Kuma blink behind you and Kuma trigger his rage skill, basically gathering all the HP and boost his HP by 150%, this is huge punish for the range players. First of all, they may have more attack from Lee Quan and Kuma, but in same time they have way less HP. So you can have 10 HP and hit for 10, or have an enemy that is hitting for 5 but is having 20 HP or maybe 30 HP. I mean, there is a difference obviously with the attributes there, but it making extremely hard. And I even feel that. When I open some reports, I want to show you. Okay, maybe this is not a report because hitting, but yeah, I'm going to pull some other reports. Okay, this is against Rock. I'm looking something against Echo. Okay, I guess this is the worst one. But yeah, look at this thing. I'm not so sure. Is this tier 4? This tier 5. I really want to get some Kuma reports. I guess there's just not many people invested that much in. Okay, here we have Goresh with Kuma, by the way. I think this is extremely nice combo, I'm not gonna lie. Look at this thing. Is that okay? This is tier 5, 244. So obviously here I get some counter, but it was not something crazy, This legion is not built to make that much damage. Kuma, great for survivability, boosting the HP. Goresh is doing some damage, but in the same time it's also great for survivability. So this is pure tanky legion. If you want to build a tanky legion, it's going to be from Goresh, Skogo, Lee Quan, Kuma. It's going to be Goresh with Kuma, because Skogo is aggressive one. Diffused counter attack, Awakened more counter attack, and Lee Quan is just doing burst damage. But if I find something else that is more like Lee Kuan. Okay, this is Lee Kuan against this is, yeah, it's not even Awakened. Kuma Lee Kuan. Really don't know why Kuma, but yeah, let's say it like this. One severely wounded 1.2 1k, and at the same time, and this is a tier 4. I want to mention that. So most likely some blink happened there. Or they just control, they was close to me. Okay, here I do some splash damage over this guy, but you see, this is just attacking with my Water Velen, this bad boy. The point I'm making is these days become extremely hard to somehow, destroy this infantry on the battlefield. And the point of this video is more like, I think Gore's Kogo, they're still extremely effective, don't get me wrong. It's not like if Lee Kuan Kuma is better from Gore's Kogo, just throw them on the trash. But I think this is going to be the two main legions, the infantry players or Krakens or even mid spenders can actually use on the battlefield. Extremely effective. So yeah, I guess this will for this video, guys. I really hope you enjoyed. Let me know in the comments what you think, guys. What you think? What's your personal opinion? What's your personal experience? You can also PM me with some reports you're having in the game, showing me some crazy stuff that is happening. I'm server 99. You can find me there. Is Burgas. Currently we're in the fight and we're in the SOS 5 7010. I think the majority of the people playing Call of Dragons know that this is one of the biggest KVKs that is going on there, but you can find me there. So yeah, I wish you a great day and see you in the next video.